Hi, I'm Kathy Marcino of KMM Consulting, and I'm here today to talk to you about one of my favorite topics. Not sure if it's one of yours, but hopefully it will be by the end, workplace conflict. I'm going to share some tips, how to recognize some of the causes of the conflict, and then some strategies to help you manage it more effectively. I love this quote by the great Wayne Dyer. Conflict can't happen without your participation. It's so true, right? Every time you bring more than one person together, there's a potential for conflict. We all know that workplace conflict is inevitable. The latest study by the 2023 Pollack Systems breaks it down in this way, and I was pretty surprised by these numbers. 85% of US employees have some level of conflict, and managers spend 15% of their time dealing with office drama. 56 of those who experienced conflict said it led to stress, anxiety, and depression, with 40% being less motivated. So this equates to 359 billion hours that are paid, but are spent on working on conflict instead of productivity, employee engagement, and making money. Conflict can show up in many ways in your organization. You'll see a decrease in productivity, personality clashes, high turnover, low morale, and an increase in stress and sick leave. But again, when managed effectively, everybody responds in a more positive way. So, what is the main cause of conflict? I don't really know if there's just one main cause, but what I've seen over the years in working with business leaders and business owners is there a common thread throughout the challenges, and that is miscommunication. The words that we use, our tone, our pace, the mode in which we communicate, especially when we have remote workers, and we've all been there, when we have a text or an email come through and it's all in caps, and our first thought is, why are they so angry? What did I do? There's so much potential for our messages to get misconstrued and for us to start making a lot of assumptions. With each of our personality styles, we have a preference for how we communicate. And it's really key for us to understand how we prefer to communicate and how others prefer to be communicated with. And we're going to talk a lot more about that as we go through the slides. Okay, there are more than enough myths out there. And I think we've all fallen into one of the traps. But again, over the years, these are the top three that I hear from my clients. First is conflict is always negative, and that can't be further from the truth. In fact, it can be a real catalyst for growth. I think we've been taught over the years to believe that conflict is not good and that we should avoid it at all costs. And when managed effectively, you'll find that it's really healthy for the team. But what you really need to know is how you react and respond to conflict. Are you initiating it? Are you fanning the flames? Are you fueling the fire? It's really important for us to understand our role and how your colleagues or employees are also responding to conflict. The second myth, someone will always lose in a conflict situation. Not necessarily. The belief here is that we have been taught over the years to believe that conflict is not a good thing and that we should avoid it at all costs. We don't want it to escalate. We want to keep quiet, not rock the boat. If we sweep it under the rug, maybe it'll go away. But really, this is a great time to stop and ask the questions. and really listen to their answers. And you'd be surprised that the perspectives that you learn, the opinions and ideas that you learn, remember, our approach isn't always the right one. And maybe we identify or uncover some other ways of problem solving. So really no one's losing here if you're open to new ideas and suggestions. And also, I think it's a great opportunity at the very beginning to identify, what do you want the outcome to be with this person? And then set the expectations, make them clear, and then you can align the steps that you need to achieve in order to achieve that outcome. The third myth, and I like this one, only difficult people cause conflict. Again, no, not necessarily. The idea is that, well, I don't get along with that person, therefore we're always going to have tension. But why? What is it that is making that person seem difficult to work with? Was it something they said? Was it the tone of their voice? You'd be surprised, again, why you're feeling this way. So stop and think, why am I all of a sudden getting upset with this person? Going back to how you uniquely react and respond to conflict is key. But then also something else to think about are our working styles. So each of us work or operate in a different way. So you or your employees or colleagues may really thrive on working under pressure. And then others really need the structure of a deadline. And so if you're working with someone and you think, wow, this is only going to take them 15 minutes and it ends up being 2 hours, well, all of a sudden they're difficult. But no, it's just the way they operate. And so it's so important for you to understand not only your communication style, but also how you operate. And then it'll be easier to adapt your style to theirs in a more productive way. What role do we play in the office drama? Well, let me go back to that quote by the great Wayne Dyer, that conflict does not happen without our participation. Each one of us plays a role. It's impossible not to. Each of us has triggers and biases that impact how we react and sometimes overreact. So look inward here. Are we fanning the flames, or are we trying to keep the peace? Are we playing the victim or playing the enabler? I think really knowing how you react and respond in these situations is really going to help you adapt and respond in a completely different way, a more productive way. Four ways we react and respond in a stressful environment. Again, according to our personality style, we are going to react and respond to stress in different ways. And if you're managing employees, this could be a real challenge for you. People can be really messy. But more often than not, we are going to handle stress and respond to conflict in one of four ways. If you find that you are more of a dominant style and you have employees that long to always be in control, you're going to find that when they're in a stressful situation, they're going to become impatient. They're going to be very short-tempered, and they're probably going to be often running and making a lot of decisions without all the information. If you or one of your employees has trouble focusing or has shiny object syndrome, you may find under stress that it becomes very chaotic. You may see a lot of finger pointing. You may be doing a lot of deflection. If you or your employees are in a supportive role, typically those folks crave stability and somewhat resistance to change. And so when pushed too far, you may find that they become even more reserved, either shut down or become hostile. And if you have folks that are more cautious, typically you'll see this in your IT or finance department. They're relying on facts and figures and policies and procedures to make decisions. And they're also afraid of failing. And so they might become not only critical of themselves, but start criticizing everyone around them. And so as a manager, the more you understand, again, how you react and respond to stress and see the patterns of your employees, the better you'll be able to respond in a more non-judgmental way. Why do we need to stop playing the blame game? It's so easy, isn't it? We all fall into this trap. We're all guilty of it. Well, let me go back to that quote that we saw in the beginning from Wayne Dyer. Conflict can't happen without your participation. I think for some of us, we're afraid to admit when we make a mistake or that we've done something wrong for fear of being perceived as weak or not being in the right role for the job. But again, no one wins at the blame game, right? Why are we doing it? Was it something that someone said? Was it something, the tone that they used, that all of a sudden caused us to deflect and point the finger? Again, is it confidence that we're lacking? Is it the work style that we don't recognize and that we're getting hung up on? Or is it, my answer is always right? We have to be open to different approaches and different thoughts and opinions. And again, I think we can't over communicate enough. It's so important for us to recognize how we communicate and how others want to be communicated with. Remember, people interpret actions and assumptions get made. And really sharing your feelings and letting others know how you feel is only going to make them feel valued. And you're going to find there a higher engagement, a higher morale, an increase in productivity. The last thing you want to see is one of your high performers walking out the door. So in summary, and you can please feel free to take screenshots. If you have employees, you're going to have conflict. It's just that simple. Since we all have unique personalities, preferences, and behaviors, misunderstandings and conflict are inevitable in the workplace. However, it doesn't always have to be negative when it's managed effectively. Identify the root cause. What was the trigger that caused you to react or overreact this way? Was it a miscommunication or a lack of direction? Uncovering an underlying issue can eliminate the frustration and hopefully unveil new opportunities. Clarify your role. Look inward. Here's where the self-awareness piece comes in. Are you an instigator or do you keep the peace? Play the victim or enable? We all have blind spots. They're called blind because they're those areas that just aren't as obvious to us. Knowing how you handle conflict has a direct impact on the outcome and is only going to serve to help you adapt your response in a more productive way. Honestly, I have been at clients' offices and I really thought that I was on the set of a reality show. Work backwards. What do you want the outcome to be? Gain a consensus and commitment from the team, and then outline the steps to achieve the desired results. When clear expectations are shared and aligned with a common goal, everyone gets on board. And I say shared here because sometimes we have expectations, but we don't tell the other person. We just assume that they're reading our mind. Be open to others' ideas. Don't assume that your approach is always the right one. Listening to alternative ideas promotes diversity and problem solving, while also building cohesiveness within the team. everyone's voices are heard, overall morale improves, and engagement increases, which is exactly what you want. Communicate, communicate, communicate. I can't emphasize it enough. Addressing the issue immediately and preventing it from escalating further and becoming resentment. That's when people decide to walk out the door. Don't put your head in the sand and hope it goes away. It's not going to. People interpret actions and assumptions get made. I know I've said that a lot today. Especially if you're a manager. Employees are watching and taking their cues from you. Sharing your feelings will let others know that you're being heard and that they're also being heard, and they'll feel empowered. Well, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I know I threw a lot of information out there for you. So please, if you have any questions, put them in a chat and I will do my very best to answer them.